Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon for our second session of HR Survival Guide.
All right, so we have little time, so we're going to go straight into it. And one of the things that I discussed with Ilham is that, we sometimes are faced with having great employees, so this is a good thing. But they're high performing, they're doing well, but we're also a little bit worried about their retention. And I know that I used to spend so much time kind of physically reviewing. The content of the performance reviews to try to identify who those employees are and try to identify the high risk areas. So I was talking to Ilham about that, and that's really going to be our first prompt and some of the things that we can do with AI. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Ilham.
Awesome. Thank you, Mona. What you're seeing on screen is the prompt structure that I've developed with Mona. So, Mona identified this scenario and we came up with this high performer retention radar. So, let's start with the first challenge. You're worried about losing your best people, but it's actually very hard to tell who's at risk until, of course, it's way too late. So, with this prompt in particular, we used AI to analyze performance reviews and spot subtle retention risk signals among your high performers. So, here's the prompt we used. We told AI, you are a talent retention specialist. So, we mentioned in the first webinar how it's really important to give a role in your AI prompt. So here it's acting as a talent retention specialist. It has that hat on, and we're looking for risk indicators to detect. So any language which implies any of the following: seeking new challenges, looking for growth, feeling underutilized. So anything within those performance reviews, any language that would indicate this. Then it scored people based on these risk levels and gave us this output. I use Claude for this one. And here it's giving me the individual retention cards. So here I can see employee number E6435, they're at high risk. What immediate actions can I tell the manager to take to prevent this high performer from leaving? There's actions that are time bound, 24 to 48 hours, what I should do within that time frame this week, in the next 2 weeks, in the next month. How else can I guide and coach this manager to have these successful conversations with this high performer? So weekly one-to-ones, engagement surveys. It's giving me a whole list of high performers and action plans and manager specific retention playbooks that I can hand over. So instead of waiting for exit interviews now, I can actually proactively coach my managers in these different departments and design interventions to identify and retain our top talent. So yeah, this prompt and huge impact from it as well. And it's very action based and action orientated. So Mona, what's your take on this? Is this the kind of thing you'd have loved as a CPO?
Absolutely, but maybe just take it a little a step back in case people haven't seen the first webinar that you guys did. So does this mean that people can kind of put this prompt in any AI, or can they do this with ChatGPT? Why have you used Claude, for example, just to give people a little bit of an idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So this prompt can work across any AI tool. So it can work with your Copilot, with ChatGPT. This is just a copy and paste prompt that you can use with the data set that you have. The reason why we've used Claude is because of its artifact capabilities. So it's actually able to create these visuals and really clearly create something for me that I can then copy and paste across to my managers. So it's just a preference at this point, just because of how visual Claude's outputs are. But this prompt will work perfectly in any other AI tool and with your data set as well.
And one of my worries is the data that you upload all the time as far as confidentiality. So in this particular one, I see that, for example, it might have used employee numbers, but you could always make sure that the data you input is something that is unidentifiable, even though AI says, they're not going to use it. I like the fact that I could manipulate that and use any non-identifiable data in there. The other thing, obviously, is, you change this according to your ratings, you change it according to your language, the types of stuff that you might see. But I think this is a great kind of first run of those areas. Just like I would have done previously, I probably will still kind of look at the data, go back and double check it myself, maybe read a few things just to make sure that it sounds right. But I would have done that if I had asked somebody else in my team to kind of do a summary anyway. So this would save so much time.
I would just add quickly that yes, the human in the loop is so important. So you always want to check the output, but hopefully this takes away 90% of the time. There's a
Yeah.
question in chat around what data you've uploaded. So I think it's probably worth showing Ilham. And again, for the next one, we could probably show the data first, what we're uploading. And so do you want to run through the data sheet?
Yeah, so this data sheet, you can see it's anonymized with employee ID numbers. It basically goes through the structure of the performance management review that they had. So the questions, the feedback they mentioned, the development goals, etc., and the categories that were mentioned as well, like and what sort of role the person fell into. So that's the data that we are working with here. And we've got two different data sets as well. But yeah, you can imagine how that can look for your organization depending on the questions that come up in your performance review. But essentially, this prompt can be tweaked to cater to the different categories that you may have in your original data set.
Yeah, and I
One
think obviously this could be an export from your normal performance management system. Whatever report is exporting, you can just export it and upload it, and again, tweak the prompt accordingly.
One of the things that I've learned from Ilham and others that use AI a lot is it's is really important to identify what you who like basically tell AI who you want them to be, right? So if you're telling them you're a retention specialist, then that's what they're gonna focus on the most and play around that. And I think it's also important to challenge what they've put in front of you. So if there's something that you see isn't really what how you would have interpreted, then maybe go back and ask AI to clarify or ask them, I've noticed such a thing. Why didn't you mention it? Things like that to kind of help it as well.
Absolutely. Just following up and saying, hey, is this information accurate to the data set I sent? Just allows AI to have a double check in terms of its outputs as well. So that's really important. But this is a great sort of soundboard to begin with, and it will get you your results faster in terms of what you're looking for. So that's also good to bear in mind.
Just there's a question in the chat again. Hey, if I've got a report in Workday, how do I get it? I think with any performance management system, what you have to do is you have to export that report in the form of XLS or whatever file. Once you have that Excel file, then you upload it into Cloud, apply this prompt, obviously tweak this prompt based on the fields that you have in that report, and then you will get the output. One thing I want to add is obviously, as Mona said, anonymize the data. But to be doubly sure, a lot of these AI tools now have a setting which say that don't let me use your data to train the model. So make sure you turn that on. But to be doubly sure, anonymize the data. And yeah, I think just keeping track of time here. Shall we go to the next use case?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one I spoke to Ilham about is a lot of times we spend time proactively training managers before performance reviews on how to provide good feedback, how to write kind of the reviews. And what we want as HR professionals is to really understand is all of that training, has it accomplished what we needed, and are the reviews of the right quality? So we can always, and what I do as well is kind of survey employees and see how the review process has gone. But sometimes I want more concrete evidence. And what I would have done historically is read some of the reviews myself. But we can also use AI to do that so that we've got really evidence-based data to help understand how well we've done training and who else needs a bit more support. So that's the challenge that I gave Ilham.
Amazing. So yeah, so maybe you've trained your managers, but how do you know it's working? Here is the prompt that we've curated. We've asked AI to act as a performance management coach. So again, giving it that role, giving it that thinking cap to analyze with, and to score managers based on how well they gave feedback using things like is the feedback specific? Is it balanced? Are the goals measurable? Is the tone professional? Let's say you teach your managers a particular methodology. You can even add that into the prompt to see and analyze against that methodology. How well are they performing against it? So this is the prompt that we used. And this is the result that we've gotten. So in the thread, again, I've fed that prompt and the data set, and I've actually got it to create me individual retention cards. So here.
So while that loads, you could also actually think about doing this with training that you've done on individual feedback. So if you have 360s, for example, you can kind of put all of that data in here to see how your employees are doing with feedback and everything else. So, um, you know, the opportunities to use this type of evaluation is really endless.
Yeah. So let me share my screen,
And
show you how that looks.
and Ilham, what was the data set used again? Was it the same as the previous one for this one, or what was the input data set?
Yeah, so it's the input data set was the same as the previous one, but it's this time it's actually really analyzing. By the way, am I sharing my screen with the?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so this time it's really analyzing the language used within those performance reviews and the input that the managers put in. So here I can see the priorities for the managers. So here the names are anonymized. And again, we've turned off the settings so it's not able to train on it as well. So there's two levels of security here. But it's told me about each manager, what could be improved, how are their inputs, priority as well. So 6 out of 3. 8 week development plan as well. Perhaps like on weeks 1 to 2, I can tell them how to go through a SMART goals workshop. 3 to 4, balanced feedback training. Maybe I can pair up managers who are really good at the performance reviews and their inputs and pair them up with someone who may need a little bit more development. So, Shadow Alice Morgan is actually giving me next steps for these managers to follow and an actual training plan to make sure these performance reviews are carried out to the standard of my organization as well. Again, here I've got a second manager and the priorities here, the critical issues, there's repetition, there's not a development focus, and then again, an intensive coaching plan I can carry out to make sure that this manager is giving the best performance reviews possible. So again, with just one prompt and the same data set, I'm able to build coaching, not just for the high performers, but also for my managers who are carrying this out as well. So yeah, that's the second demo.
And of course, you might also want to anonymize the names of your managers so you can go in there and replace those in your data set just to make sure that everything is, depending on each of your company's regulations. But again, this is I would use it as a great first draft of what you want to do because you also want to always make sure that the learning development is in line of, your organization and all the things that are right. So obviously in this example, there's Alice and there's David Shaw, and it may not make sense to put them together, but it gives you a great idea of who's doing well, who can support this other manager, and so on. So it's
Yeah,
just really
so it gives a scorecard, it gives themes for coaching, it has peer mentoring suggestions as well. So we're not just training our managers, we're targeting the support where it's needed most with the evidence we've collected. And again, it's all from existing data, no extra surveys, just smarter analysis with this prompt.
One question, Ilham, it's on the Q&A. So will Claude give you charts for the results for the group of data you use, or will you be able to pick out individuals where Claude is suggesting the quality of the line manager's output is poor?
I didn't
So,
totally understand the second part of the question.
so second is that will it give you charts based on the group of data you use, or will you be able to pick out individuals where Claude is suggesting the quality of line manager's output
Yeah.
is input is poor? So is it like bulk data, or can you fine tune and hone in on specific individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a second. You can really ask Claude to zoom in on certain areas and create another dynamic dashboard on that data set as well. So it's not rigid. You can give it a overall view, or you can really ask for it to zoom in on certain categories, on certain people, and create new dashboards based on your ask.
It
Yeah, and
really
it's all. Go ahead, sorry, Mona.
No, I was going to say it really depends, I guess, on what you want it to do and what you ask it. In the next example, we actually go a bit broader. So this one was more individual, and the next example, we're going to provide the more broader look as well. But it's all about what you ask it.
Yeah, so zooming in and zooming out is super easy for Claude to do, and we find that it follows instructions to a T as well. Fab, shall we move on to demo 3?
Sure. So this next one, so little same as what I said. This one goes a little bit broader, and I know a lot of times you want to deliver kind of meaningful learning and development initiatives, and you need to influence whether it's your CPO or other execs on where to shift that priority for learning and developing people. So how can you actually decide on the right initiatives to use, and how can you do that not just but by what people are telling you, but from data-driven stuff as well. So this prompt that, I was talking to Ilham about is more around, how do you figure out where to get the biggest bang for your buck if you have, learning and development priorities. So I'll move it to Ilham if you can kind of walk them through this one.
Yeah, awesome. So we asked AI, Claude in this case, to analyze all the developmental goals that were mentioned and feedback and performance reviews to spot the learning needs that need immediate attention. So then Claude was able to group similar themes, check how often they appear, and weigh them by seniority level as well. So, for example, here we put this prompt in role, you're a learning and development, talent development strategist. The goal, identify the most impactful learning investments that I can make, steps as well. So I want it to carry out these steps. So in if I didn't have AI, what sort of steps would I give to someone who's actually working in L&D? I've done that and given it to Claude instead. So it's got a very particular sort of analysis process to follow and analyze all development goals, then zoom in to the priorities. So that's what we did, and this was the output and the final result. So what I'm going to show on screen is how the priority development areas, data analysis, negotiation, how many employees mentioned this, what would be the potential ROI score if I was to invest in this, how could I even do the delivery as well, and then the detailed investment recommendations as well. So data analysis needs, there's 17 employees, 4 senior, 7 mid who would like this. Which department is this need most apparent in? I can see sales and finance. Negotiation, I can see 60% overall mentioned communication, but 35% specifically negotiation. Senior managers are requesting this, and so on and so forth. So now I've got this data set and this dashboard that shows exactly what skills I should be investing in according to what's been mentioned in the performance reviews. And now I know I can argue for budget with data for these areas as well.
Yes. What I love about this is that nothing changes in the way that we do HR. So we're still doing the performance reviews. We still focus on what we think is important for our organizations, but this is just reducing the time it takes you, the admin time to go through, and review every bit of data yourself. But your process is the same no matter what. You're still going to question what you've seen. You're still going to maybe do a deep dive yourself on a few issues, but this really saves a lot of time.
Yeah, and just with one prompt and a few minutes of analyzing from Claude, it's identified 7 high impact development areas that will address 71.7% of my workforce's critical gaps in the performance reviews. So how powerful is that figure in terms of developing a strategy for me?
Great. And I think the purpose of this is to really spark the creativity, spark your ideas. If you're doing learning needs analysis survey, for example, some companies do it before, or training needs analysis, You can combine that and this data with that data and say, hey, does this sync up? Do the training needs say the same thing my performance review system is saying, or are they out of sync? So there's a lot of things you can do. Just like, just think of it as your assistant, right? And AI is your assistant, right? And so it's not an intelligent assistant that works for you, and whatever you think it can do, you just give it a go and see what output you get. So we've got 3 minutes now. I want to spend a quick minute outlining a little bit more about how 5 minutes helps companies upskill themselves in a range of different areas for a minute, and then we'll open it up to QA, to address any other questions you may have on these prompts. So if I may share my screen very quickly, Elam, uh, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So again, basically, again, 5 minutes, for some those of you don't know us, we are next generation AI powered TikTok style training platform. So we make learning efficient and effective and frictionless. That's really our mission. We work globally across a range of different companies, but think of us as a TikTok meets Duolingo style training tool. So in terms of the specific use cases we cover, we're helping our customers cover a range of different training needs, all the way from onboarding to compliance and capability building. And one of the big focus areas for us is AI training and AI literacy and AI enablement. And in fact, which is what we wanted to show you today, specifically focused on AI for HR. So our whole mission is to help HR teams, HR leaders, make learning as personalized, automated, AI powered as possible, so you can focus on the culture of the business and the strategic aspects of your job. So we have a lot of AI courses on our platform, all micro courses, micro lessons, and they're updated on a monthly, quarterly basis. So this is just a spectrum of things that we have on the platform. Obviously, a big focus for us is AI for HR, and but we do cover other areas in case you're looking for AI enablement for your organization. Obviously, as HR leaders, you get free access to the platform. If you wanted to go get a free trial, just go on our website. There's a button called Get a Free Trial. Just click on it, and you can sign up, and my colleagues or myself will set you up. So that's my little 1 minute marketing pitch for 5 minutes.
The one thing I want to say is the reason we're using AI for me, or the reason I would use it, is not just because it's more efficient, but it actually gives me then more time to work with my HR team to do things that really matter. If I'm looking at where managers need support, then I've got the time to actually support them and help coach them, as opposed to using my time for the admin of all of this. So I think it really lets us do all the things that we all love doing, which is, sitting down with managers and with employees and giving them things that really make a difference for them.